Okay, the Trump administration is now threatening to arrest members of Congress. This is a major escalation in what was already a fraught incident at an immigration detention center in New Jersey. On Friday, Newark Mayor Baraka had joined congressional leaders who went to the newly converted ICE detention facility to protest its opening and inspect its conditions when he was arrested by federal officers. He was booked on trespassing charges and released from custody. Then yesterday, discussing the incident on CNN, the spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security suggested that there could be more arrests, saying that there's body camera footage showing some members of Congress who were present, quote, assaulting our ICE enforcement officers, including body slamming a female ICE officer, end quote. Okay, so take a look at this. DHS did release body camera footage of the arrest, which is what you're looking at now. As you can see, it was a chaotic situation. One of the lawmakers, LaMonica McIver, said the lawmakers were the ones being assaulted by multiple ICE agents. It's important to note, lawmakers do have a legal right to conduct oversight visits to any facility that is used by DHS to detain or otherwise house migrants, and that they are not required to provide prior notice of their intent to enter such a facility. I spoke with Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman yesterday. Here's what she had to say about what happened.
There was just, like, consistently and across the board, especially with the folks in uniform, no respect for who we were and no respect for the mayor, which concerns us tremendously, because if you don't respect your legally responsible officials, those who've taken an oath, just like you should have, if you don't respect the mayor and the federal officials, then we understand why people are so afraid.
Joining me now is Alan Orr. He's the founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm. He's a former president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. And Alan, I need your expertise to help us work through a bunch of issues here. The first of which is that the Congresswoman is correct. Department of Homeland facilities are available for inspection by federal elected officials.
Mm-hmm. That is correct, and that's in the regulations, and it's quite clear. So that's why they probably weren't detained on the site. But I think we should have a greater view of what's going on here in New Jersey to start with. At the end of April, there was a federal case with regards to whether New Jersey could keep this facility from opening in the first place because they did not have the proper permits. And it's not a federal prison, it is a private prison.
Yep.
It is a government contract. So therefore, it's not a federal even establishment.
So tell me how that affects what we saw on Friday, because one of the other things we saw with the mayor of Newark is that it appears from our staff watching the video, the mayor was leaving the facility, as he was asked to do, and then the arrest took place.
That's right. So let's go back in time a little bit more, because on May 4th is when these protests started happening at this facility because they didn't have the proper permits from the state of New Jersey. And so the mayor has been there on several occasions asking for the inspection, making sure they have the permits. And the reason why we want to make sure these places have permits is because it's required by New Jersey law. And these are private companies with government contracts in the state of New Jersey. So they have to follow the law. So when we see him leaving the facility and him being the only person that's arrested, it is quite suspicious to me, based on the facts of all the videos I have seen, to say that he had charged the facilities or that they were having an altercation with people who may not even be ICE officers or DHS officers, because at many of these GEO facilities, once again, private contractors, they hire private security guards who are not authorized to enforce the law of the federal government.
Right, and the way the Congresswoman described it to me is that they huddled around the mayor, the staff and the members of Congress huddled around the mayor, and then, you know, something that looks like a scuffle ensued. There was a lot of pushing. Some of them you see say federal police, some of them say ICE, some of them don't. Some people just have masks on. Very hard to tell what's exactly going on. But let's go to 50,000 feet here now, Alan, and the question here becomes, this administration wants there to be no accountability to anybody and by anybody about what they deem to be immigration matters. They've argued this before the court. They are trying to get the Supreme Court to agree with this, that judges, courts, legislators, and everybody else do not have a role in government immigration policy.
And so let's go way, way big above, because we say this president had a mandate from the election, and people were upset that immigrants were getting all these freebies. They thought in New Jersey and Chicago they were getting housing and food at the taxpayers' expense. And many of these taxpayer expenses were going back into these local communities. The money has just shifted to these clearinghouses for private companies. Private prisons are nothing but profit for private companies who generally don't pay taxes, and the taxpayer money is still giving them housing and free food when many of these individuals were working in communities and paying taxes. So that's the first fallacy. The second fallacy is that many of these individuals who know the Constitution so well because they care about the Second Amendment don't care about the First Amendment and due process. And if they were able to do the process and go to court and prove these individuals were removable, then it would be no issue. Nowhere have you heard from the immigration bar or anyone that you may not define or remove individuals from the United States. All we're saying is follow the process. They don't want to follow the process. And if they had followed the process, a number of the cases that they are now battling would not have happened. And that is hurting the government's case because now the Aliens Act, clearly there's a standard for irreparable harm because these individuals cannot be removed back. So they're hurting their own claim to enforce immigration rights by not correcting their own mistakes.
Alan, thank you. There's a lot more for us to discuss. We're going to keep on talking to you about it. Alan Orr is an immigration attorney. He's the founder of the Orr Immigration Law Firm.